and welcome to Retrotainment. We're back again this week with our co-host, capital C, capital O, Greg. How are you doing, buddy?
What's happening, homie?
Not too bad, not too bad.
It's still me sporting the new look and all.
New look, summer look for Greg there. Shaved head.
The yearly shave.
Yeah. We're here into July, so Sci-Fi July, as we're calling it. And what a better way
has to go with a rhyme.
Yeah, and you can't do sci-fi without looking back on time travel. And if you're going to look at time travel, you're looking at time travel, you got to be looking at Back to the Future.
Oh, 100%. Well, we could have went Time Cop, Van Damme. It's a bit of action, bit of sci-fi.
Yeah, you can also go Bill and Ted, I suppose. But
this may be better.
I definitely think this is better. I do love Bill and Ted though as well, but that's kind of comedy as well. So
yeah, to me, this is probably the best time travel movie.
Yeah, well, I think as you said, Bill and Ted is obviously comedy and time travel.
Time Cop isn't a very good movie,
but it's action and time travel, whereas this is pretty much just all based on the time travel,
and some comedy in there. And some...
Yeah, well, you're going to get the odd bit of comedy, the odd bit of action, they're parts of the story, but it's not like you'd never describe this as a comedy,
Yeah, no, this is straight up sci-fi time travel.
Yeah. Released on the 3rd of July in 1985.
Blockbuster.
So summer blockbuster, yeah. Also Irish lads didn't get it until much later again.
But 87 we got it, was it? Okay. It was out of the cinema in America anyway. I know that.
Yeah, it was gone from them, but
yeah, we weren't born. But
no, we got screwed anyway. But as always, take a quick look at the ratings. So out of 83 critics, we get 96%.
Sound.
Which is really, really. I think that might be the highest we've had.
Critic rating, yeah.
And then audience 94%. So again, you've got a relatively close balance there.
Like we had one. What was the one we were talking about there? The last couple of episodes where we said it's probably one of the Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
We were saying it's probably the highest. This is higher.
Yeah, this is a slight bit higher. Yeah.
Overall, this is higher for the two of them together.
For the two together, yeah, it definitely is. I can only guess that I didn't bother looking up why people rated it down. Usually, people rate these down because of time travel.
Yeah.
Oh, but it wouldn't work because the time travel is this, and you're like, yeah, but time travel doesn't work. That's the whole point.
It wouldn't work because the DeLorean probably can't reach 88 miles an hour.
Yeah, but then there's also well, if he goes back in time, but then he comes back here and he comes back there, and you're like, yeah, but that's always going to be a problem. With time travel, you just have to accept that, it doesn't really work properly, and just accept that there is some problems. The main issue is just they go back and you don't mess anything up because otherwise,
I like that even in this, and I know you see it in other ones in later years, they stuck to that. Don't change anything in the past because it will fuck up the future.
Yeah. But box office wise, 388.8 million.
Yeah, solid. Huge
blockbuster.
Well, it was a 19 million budget that they gave Robert Zemeckis to do. Spielberg was in on it as well. He was the producer.
Yeah. When you look at it though, this isn't cast wise, it's not so huge that you'd be expecting it to be as big a blockbuster as that, I don't think.
Well, Michael J. Fox was on Family Ties at this stage. This movie took longer to make because he was only able to work half days on this. So he was starting on.
He's a big star, but
Christopher Lloyd would have been as well.
Yeah, but you're talking I know they're the two main ones, but you're talking two big actors, and then
Crispin Glover as well was the dad.
Yeah, but I don't think he was that big a name that you'd be expecting huge blockbuster.
Even this Michael J. Fox, I don't think was huge at this time. As it says, he's on
the rise anyway.
He was in Family Ties. He was apparently getting up. I think in his book he says he was getting up at 6 a.m. being picked up by Teamsters. He was going to Family Ties, recording whatever there, and then going to here at 1:30 to record till 9.
Someday.
Because he signed on to do. He was signed into Family Ties, and then he was doing this on the outside.
On the outside, yeah. Some amount of time.
Yeah.
He could have done with a DeLorean for that, I'd say.
Yeah, the fucking thing's made of stainless steel. It's not going to go anywhere. There's actually one of them in Bray, you know that?
Yeah, I know,
Someone has one in Bray.
I always look, whenever I see it, I'm like, the old DeLorean.
I think it's a Northern Irish made car. I think it was made in Belfast, I think, somewhere like that. I think that's the only car that was ever made.
Could be, yeah. I wouldn't be too well versed on something like that.
No, I think someone had told me that, I think, but I don't know like if it's true or not.
Yeah.
But
like this film starts quite simply. We see a house with loads of machines that do the work, but there's nobody in it, which I love.
So funny.
Like it's meant to have the kettle, or like the coffee maker, but there's no pot there. Then it empties the dog food for Einstein, but they're not there, so it's just piling up and piling up.
But I love this. You see it all, right? And you see the clocks, and then you go to the can opener, and it goes to everything. And then you see Marty open the door, and he puts the key back under the mat.
Yeah, just that's fine. That'll do. What we do see here is on the board as it's panning across all this is that we see that like Brown family fortune was lost and all this, and we see that we learned that whoever owns this house was at one point rich, but now is living in quite like a small shabby
squalor.
Like
everything's all over the place. Like you can tell he's obviously either a scientist or an inventor.
Yeah, and then we see a quick news story on the telly that a load of plutonium was well, they're claiming it wasn't stolen. They're claiming it was just
stolen by the Libyans.
Yeah, but they're claiming, it wasn't stolen, which is a clerical error. We still have it. It's actually here. Like no one.
We apologize.
Yeah. Then we see under his bed the big box of.
Marty knocks his skateboard on and hits it, and it just says petroleum.
Plutonium.
Plutonium.
Yeah. And then we see Marty basically wreck the house by using the giant amplifier.
Did you notice, like when he puts the amplifier in and he has that look of Roddy Piper in They Live.
Yeah.
I looked at it and I seen it. I haven't only rewatched They Live there a while ago. I was looking at it going, that's a very similar look. The glasses now, and he blows himself to bits.
Blows the whole place to bits, and then the phone rings and it's Doc, and he's like, oh, by the way, don't use that amp. It's not working properly. He's like, yeah, I won't.
Okay, I won't do that.
And he's like, here, what's the story? Is Einstein, which is the dog? Is Einstein with you? Yeah, he's here with me. Meet me in the mall at
Twin Pines Mall, and they make a thing of saying Twin Pines Mall.
Yeah, meet me at Twin Pines Mall at 1:15 in the morning later today. And he's like, and then the clocks go off, and he's like, it's 8 o'clock, I better go. And he's like, those clocks are 25 minutes slow. What?
He's out of there.
He's out of there hitching a ride to school on the back of cars using his skateboard.
Genius, this.
Yeah, very, very dangerous thing to do. But
I'd say this probably helped boost skateboard sales. No end.
I would say so, yeah. I would say it also caused a lot of accidents because
I wouldn't
tailgating like that is so dangerous. Like,
yeah, well, like you're never unless a car actually does indicate, which they're supposed to, but we all know that doesn't happen.
Well, not even that. Just the actual the speed you gather while holding on to that.
Oh, if you fall, yeah.
Not even just if you fall, like if there's just a pebble or something, because your wheels aren't big enough. Like even a slight knock on those wheels on a skateboard could topple you over. Like it's very, very dangerous.
I was never one for skateboards.
Yeah.
I left that talent.
We see him go into school, and he's we meet his girlfriend who's trying to avoid him getting caught by the principal, presumably, about being late again.
Yeah, he's always late. It's grand.
He seems to be late quite a lot. But he auditions with his band for the to play at the school dance.
I love what the principal did though. He keeps calling him a slacker.
Yeah, you're a slacker. But we see him audition, and then they're just like, "Yous are too loud." And I was like, "Well, I mean, they're not that loud. Like, they're not deafeningly loud now."
Do you know who one of those the producer, the talent judges are?
Who?
The other one that picks up the bullhorn that's talking to them.
Yeah.
That's Huey Lewis.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Now he's uncredited in it because he didn't want to try and take over and be like, oh, it's based on him.
Yeah.
But yeah, after 3 or 4 rounds of negotiations with him, he's like, I'll do it, but you're not putting my name into it. Like if you actually look at it, it's him. Like
pretty good of him, isn't it?
Yeah. It's grand, eh?
But yeah, like he's told, listen, these are too loud, which complete bollocks anyway. But after this, Marty is a bit, downtrodden that they didn't get picked and stuff, and the girlfriend's like, listen, what does Doc always tell you? If like you can do anything if you put your mind to it and stuff, and you should send your tape into the radio to get them to listen to it and stuff. And he's kind of like, oh, I don't want to. Like, what if they don't like it? And they tell me I'm not good.
Like I looked at this, right? It was set up that he's a nerd in a way. I found. So I mean, he's hanging around with the weird scientists and things like that.
It's a strange one because they have him set up as kind of the nerd, but he's also kind of the cool guy as well.
And he looks to be going out with arguably what's you imagine it's supposed to be the best looking girl in school.
I don't even, possibly, but like they don't really, like, you don't really see anyone from his school other than her, and you just kind of get this idea that like he is popular, but not that popular.
He's no Biff Tanner,
but he's also not like the nerd because he doesn't do particularly well in school because he's always late.
But they've set it up. This looks to me is one of the first movies that I've seen where being the kind of not so popular person pays off for you in a way. Like you can have friends and whatnot, but you're not like the high school quarterback. Or
I think this kind of just leaves him more as just the generic person in school.
Yeah,
like he's not he's not bottom of the social ladder, but he's not up at the top of it either, sort of thing. He's just there.
What he likes.
Yeah, like he just does what he wants to do. But she kind of tries to console him, and then they talk about their plans that weekend that they're going to go up to the lake, and she's like, did you tell your mom? And he's like, no, she'll only start giving me
what's wrong with you?
she'll only give me that whole the whole speech that I always get, and oh, you shouldn't be doing this and you shouldn't be doing that. Like he's just like, I'm not telling her, I'm just gonna go. Like
they're going to was it Make Out Point or whatever?
No, they're going to a lake to stay the weekend, but he's told her his parents that he's going with with a couple of the lads rather than going up with her.
Well, you know what's gonna happen up there.
Yeah, but like he's told her, I got up with a couple of the lads, like it's just just to hang out.
Going on the sesh.
Yeah. But he's with her, and then her dad comes to pick her up. But just before they get picked up, he's handed a leaflet by this woman who's talking about the clock.
Yeah, save the clock tower.
The mayor wants to redo the clock tower, and he's like, yeah, fine. Just here's some money, leave us alone. And she gives
25 cents.
Yeah, she gives the leaflet to him, which he just puts in his pocket, sort of thing. And then he heads home, and Biff is there having drunk drive and crashed the car.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, and this is where we first see Biff, and Biff is giving his dad a hard time, sort of thing. He's like, have you got my work done? You need to have it done early so that you can give it to me so that I can do it in my own writing and stuff. And what I like here is that it comes in a bit later. This is the exact same conversation here that he has with the dad later on.
When he pops back,
yeah, it's exactly the same. Even the same. What's that on your shoe?
I like the way when he first walks into the conversation, he's like, why would you give me your car and not tell me there was a blind spot?
Yeah, all cars have a blind spot.
And the dad's like, he's like, but I never noticed a blind spot. Then you, sir, have never drove that car.
Yeah, it's a kind of weird one. Like it just shows that it just sets you
terrified.
up. It sets you up, that Biff is the school bully that the dad was kind of picked on in school, and that it's just continued on through into their adult life. Yeah, like just general stuff. He goes in and meets Doc and Einstein at the.
Well, Doc rings and he falls asleep.
He promises he hasn't though. No, I didn't.
To be fair, it is only 1:45. He might be getting up before that. You don't know that.
Yeah, he has loads of time. He has loads. But he goes down and he meets them there, Doc and Einstein, at Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
And Doc is in this big van.
This is the Free candy inside, kids.
Yeah, very, very dodgy looking van, but he reverses out with the, this is where we first see the DeLorean itself. He reverses it out.
What a car.
Quality looking car. And he's like, listen, can you grab the camcorder on your way? And, you know, he starts giving the little speech like, listen, this is what's going to happen. And they put Einstein in and he's like, I've got my clock synced up exactly to Einstein's. And it's like a remote control car. He's got like the little control where he's like driving it around.
So good.
He has quality control of that, to be fair to him.
What happens now is when the DeLorean hits some 88 miles an hour, you're about to see some shit.
Yeah. He makes them stand directly in front of it.
Yeah. Imagine he didn't get there. But movie over.
What I like is that the whole time that you see Marty kind of sliding bit
slightly, yeah.
And Doc keeps looking at him being like, come back here. So the car reaches 88 miles an hour, which is, we learn what it needs to reach to go forward in time, or backwards in time, I suppose. But it's forward in time for this point. The only thing is that as the car is just about to hit them, the static electricity goes around it, it disappears, and we see the tire marks.
He's standing in the fire. The
two of them are just standing in this fire, no bother to them. Like, this is grand, it's fine.
Yeah. That's probably one of the things that's probably knocked down on the things like that. Like, you should say, like, if they're gonna do that, have them jump out of it, or
just have them on like the inside, like track. Inside it, so they're not standing in the flames. That's all you have to do. Like, I suppose it would have been tough to do. So
I noticed that last night. Now Michael J. Fox is literally, or Marty's just literally standing right in the middle of it and just turns around as if nothing.
Yeah, but I like that they continue talking, and he's like, "You've just incinerated the car and your dog." And he's like, "No. I've set them forward in time
by a minute,
by 1 minute." So 1 minute later, the car appears back, and it's covered in ice, I suppose. Like he does. He does say extraordinarily cold. He says it's extraordinarily cold. He doesn't say it's ice. He just says it's extraordinarily cold.
Yeah, because he says it's not going to be extremely hot. And he's like the opposite.
Yeah,
it's going to be extremely cold.
He opens it up, and Einstein's grand, which was good.
Yeah.
And the clock is exactly 1 minute in the difference. It's now, instead of being 1:20, it's now 1:22 on the actual clock. It's still 1:21 on Einstein's.
Yeah.
So we discover that this does work. So he continues videoing, and he's like explaining how it works. He's like, you see, these three little dials here. The first clock tells you where you're going. The second clock tells you where you are, and the third clock tells you where you were.
Yeah, I love this though, where he's like, so we could go and see the signing of independence, and he puts in July 4th, whatever, 1796. The birth of Christ, 25th of December, 24th of December, 0000. Or what is it? 12th, the 5th of September, 1955.
The 5th of November, 1955.
5th of November, yeah.
And he's like, what's that date? I said, that's the most important date. That's when I thought up the idea for the flux capacitor.
Yeah, what happened? I was hanging a mirror and fell and hit my head off the sink.
Yeah. Now this here is where there's a slight discrepancy in the film. That we'll get to a little bit later. But they say 5th of December or 5th of November is when he's come up with the flux capacitor idea, right? And he says, I've spent 30 years developing it and the family fortune. So we learn where all his money's gone. It's gone into creating this. And then he's like, what's the story with the suit? He's like, oh, it's because I got the plutonium from these Libyans who asked me to make a bomb. I just gave them something that didn't work. And he's explaining to him that, like, listen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go a couple of years into the future, and I'm going to learn, like, I'm going to find out who wins all of the subsequent sporting events and Super Bowls, and I'm going to see, I'm going to see what life is like 25 years from now and things, just the generic stuff.
I love how he's like, look me up when you get there.
Yeah, look me up when you get there. I will. But before they can do that, the
sketchiest looking thing you've seen, a little van. It's like a little Scooby-Doo van coming down with no lights on. Yeah. And he's like, they found us, Marty. Who is it? The Libyans.
What I like is the Libyans come in and they're shooting, and he's got his own gun, which doesn't work. So they're kind of they're hidden, and then we see Doc get shot.
Popped.
Yeah, and you're just like, oh, that's a bit of a letdown. But then they go chasing Marty, who just runs to the car and just jumps into it.
Yeah.
And he's driving around and he gets up to 85 miles an hour or whatever.
Your man pulls out the rocket launcher.
Yeah, your man pulls out this massive rocket launcher like that just happens to be in the back of the Scooby Doo van. And then he's like,
Well,
let's see if you guys can
they
get
are
up to.
Libyans after all.
Yeah, he's like, let's see if you guys can get up to 90. So he gets up to 90. Obviously not thinking, because all he's thinking is like, I do not want to get shot by these guys. And the second he hits 88, bam, he's gone. Now, one thing we learned when Doc was planning on going forward is that, you need one of the tubes of plutonium
to get out and one to get back.
One to get there, one to get back, because you need to generate 1.21 gigawatts of power. And there's nothing that'll generate that other than the plutonium. But Marty's gone back without any.
Lies.
Yeah, well, that's what they have here, and Marty's gone back with none. So he's just going to be stuck there now.
Well, he didn't really have a choice.
I know he doesn't have a choice, but like Doc only remembers last minute when he's about to go forward, just before the Libyans get there. He's like, "Oh, I better bring some of that so I can."
That's
where
he was. That's what he was going to get.
Yeah, that's what he's going to get. But he crashes into this farmhouse.
I love when he hits the ground. He absolutely smashes their scarecrow out of it.
Yeah, which terrifies him. Then he crashes into this barn, and the family come out, and he's in the hazmat suit and stuff, and the kid's got a little book of
I love how that is. They're like, "What is that?" And he's like, "It's a spaceship." And he shows in the comic, and it's just a DeLorean drawn as a spaceship.
But and it has the same way the door opens upwards rather than outwards, which is why I think it was great that they did use a DeLorean, because
do you know what they were originally supposed to use as a time machine?
No.
A fridge.
I'm glad they didn't go with that.
I'm not sure how they would have done it, but apparently the original idea was to use a fridge.
I mean, how's a fridge going to reach 88 miles per hour? I don't know.
They also had a different name for it.
Yeah, I've shared it. There's probably millions of ideas floated around. Well, I'm glad they went with this.
Yeah, the name actually came from the comic. So do you know it was like from something from Pluto?
Yeah.
The name of the movie was going to be Spaceman from Pluto.
Oh, well, I'm glad they changed that. Back to the Future is a way better name. But, he gets out and they think he's an alien. So they run back, and then the dad comes out with a gun and starts shooting at him. And he's like, right, get back in this car and get out of here.
Sorry for wrecking your barn. Your man puts a hole in it.
Yeah. But he drives into the town again. And, he's getting accustomed to the fact that he's back 30 years back in time.
Well, I love when he drives up to roughly where his house should be.
Yeah, and it's a estate being built.
Yeah, Leon Estates.
Yeah. And then the car breaks down, so he hides it behind the big
sign poster.
Yeah, with a load of trees put over, well, like branches and stuff put over it. But he goes into just like a local cafe, and he's like, "Can I use your phone?"
Yeah.
And he's going to ring up Doc, but Doc doesn't answer. So
This is funny though. He gets abused for. Are you gonna drown? Why? Or did you just get off the boat?
Yeah. Oh yeah. What are you wearing the life preserver vest for? Yeah. But he eventually orders something after trying to order
something without sugar. It was originally a diet Dr. Pibb.
No, he wanted a Pepsi free, and your man was like, "If you want a Pepsi, you're gonna pay for it." And he's like, "Just give me something."
Oh no, it was a tab free or something.
He wanted
a tab. First thing.
No, he wanted a tab first, and then your man was like, "You need to buy something to get a tab," and he was like, "Yeah, a tab," and your man was like, "I don't know what that means."
I think a tab is a drink.
Yeah, it is, but like that it wasn't obviously.
But it's just it's a good play on words.
It shows his lack of understanding of how things were 30 years before.
But it was a play on the words, obviously, because you can get a tab in a place if you're like a local and whatnot.
But he takes the slip of paper that has the Doc's address on it, because Doc's not answering the phone. He's like, right, I'm just gonna make my way up there. But as he's sitting there drinking his coffee, in walks young Biff
and his Scooby gang
and the boys, and they go over to some guy sitting next to him, and he's like, "Where's my homework?" And it's his dad.
Oh, I didn't think you'd need it yet. It's not. It's only Saturday, or so it's obviously just a Friday.
It's a Friday, and he's like, he knocks him on the head like he does in the house when they're talking about the car. Hello, anyone in there? I need to redo it in my handwriting. You wouldn't want me to get thrown out of school, would you? And
I love how he stops this time though.
Yeah, it's exactly the same story though.
Yeah.
And then Biff leaves, and Marty's like, that's.
He calls him a butthead again.
Yeah, but Marty recognizes this is his dad, and he's just staring at his dad. Looks exactly the same.
Yeah, Chris McGlover.
Yeah, just look, it's exactly the same person. Doesn't look any younger. Just looks exactly the same.
Yeah, it's weird. Then you see him going on when he went on to do Charlie's Angels. He's just the exact same person still.
Yeah.
He never changed. Like his hair never changed or anything.
Yeah, but he gets distracted by other things happening, talking to one of the guys who works there, who's like, "Why do you let that guy bully you?" to his dad.
Yeah.
And he's like, "He's going to be mayor," and they're like, "I don't think so."
Yeah, I'm gonna start by cleaning up his dad. You can start by cleaning up the floor.
Yeah, but his dad leaves, and he's like, "Wait, where's he have to go?" So he goes chasing him, and we see his dad. He follows him and finds his dad up in a tree.
Oh, he's a peeping Tom.
And he's like, he's a peeping Tom. The dad falls out of the tree, and a car's about to hit him. Marty's like, "Well, crap, that car's gonna hit my dad." Saves him.
Not thinking about that's how his parents met.
Yeah, this is the story that he's been told hundreds of times that we earlier. They're like, "Yeah, we know how you and dad met."
Yeah.
So he pushes the dad out of the way, and then he gets hit by the car, and then he's out for what we're told is 9 hours.
I love how the dad's like, "Marge, another one of them kids jumped out in front of my car."
Some punk kid jumped out in front of my car again.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, this time he kind of did, because a kid fell out of a tree and just was there.
Yeah.
And then another kid came and pushed him. So, this time at least he's...
How many kids has he hit, you wonder?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. The mother's kind of like, this has kind of happened a few times. I wouldn't worry about him.
Yeah.
They're very not concerned about the fact that he keeps hitting children with his car. But, we see his mum there, and his mum thinks his name's Calvin because of the brand of underwear he's wearing.
Is that not... Well, his ma, yeah. So it's
his ma, but when she's younger.
Yeah. You're Calvin Klein.
Yeah, he's like, no, my friends call me Marty.
Yeah.
No explanation needed as to why, if your name's Calvin, your friends call you Marty. Of course.
That's the most Irish thing you'll ever hear. Your name is one thing, and everyone just calls you another thing.
Yeah, it's very. But there's no explanation. She doesn't even question that. She's just like, yep.
She does call him Calvin a couple of more times.
She does, yeah. But she never questions why he's like, "Oh, my friends call me Marty." But we get a couple of, he's sitting down at the table eating dinner with them, and the dad brings in the TV, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I know this episode. It's a."
Yeah, it's when he comes out of thing dressed as a spaceman.
Yeah, but he's like, "Oh, I know this episode. I've seen it before," and they're like, "It's brand new." And he's
I've seen it on a rerun.
And they're like, this is brand new. And just before that, he's like, "Yeah, we got 2 tellies," and the mother of that family which would be his grandmother, is like,
"No,
he's only lying to you. Nobody has 2 tellies."
Yeah.
Which, back in that time, it would have been, completely ridiculous to think that somebody.
It would make you think that in 1955, I'd imagine tellies were really expensive, so that would tell you that they were kind of well off.
Well, you could kind of see that, Jed. Like, their house was quite nice and stuff as well. But we kind of see that his mum isn't the angel she claims she was.
Oh, she's a filthy animal.
Well, at this point, we don't see how bad. She's just kind of a little forward.
No, you kind of do. Oh, you can stay in my bed. No.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but it's she's when he's in his actual time in 1985, the mum's always claimed that she was
as good
basically basically a nun, and he is learning very quick.
Yeah. But do you know the relationship between him and the ma when she's younger is the reason that Disney didn't pick this up? Yeah. Because they cited it as incest.
Yeah, and it is a little.
Oh, it is theoretically.
Yeah, but only he knows that. She has no idea. She just thinks he's just some guy.
Although he plays it really well, as in he's creeped out and he's weirded out.
But he plays it very well. But at the same time, he's like, I can't tell her either.
Yeah, because that's gonna fuck shit up.
Yeah, but he eventually gets himself down to Doc's house, and Doc is testing out his mind reading machine.
Don't tell me.
And he's getting nothing right. Yeah. And he's like, "You know what this means? It means this thing doesn't work. I've spent 6 months on this stupid thing."
Good old Doc.
He's trying to explain to Doc that I'm from the future. You create a time machine. I came back and all this stuff. And Doc is just not buying it at all.
And he was like, yeah, you fell and hit your head. That bump on your head, I know how you got it.
See, and this is where the slight discrepancy is that Doc says that happened on the 5th of November 1955, which is the date that he goes back to.
Yeah.
Which means that it had to have happened that day.
Yeah, earlier on in the morning or whatever.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
Well, he says that he got up and he drew it.
Yeah, but Doc doesn't really seem, like Doc's not like trying to build it or anything. Like if you just got this idea of like this thing is how I would travel through time, surely that's the first thing you'd start.
Well, he does. He has the drawing of it.
Yeah, but you'd start working on it. You wouldn't be dicking around with something to read minds, like if you thought you'd create time travel,
That's hilarious, though.
It is, and it's a great scene for them to put in, but like that's the slight bit of thing.
And what was it? You want me to make a donation to the Young Navy or something?
Yeah, something mental. But he tells Doc, like this is what's happened, and he shows him the picture of his family, and he's like, see, like here's the date and all. And Doc is like, now listen, have you spoken to anyone else other than me? And he's like, I bumped into my parents, and he's like, right, you need to go make sure that things go as normal with them, because otherwise.
He's like, the brother's head started to disappear.
Yeah, he's like, otherwise you're not going to be born. And he looks at the picture and he's like, see, your brother's already disappearing. Like you being here has already affected it. So you need to just make sure that they get together. So now the film is Doc repairing the car. Well, Marty tries to make sure that his dad hooks up with his mum.
The amount of times I watch this, you nearly forget that Doc Brown doesn't do a whole lot in this film up until near the end.
Yeah, pretty much. He's kind of in it at the start and kind of in it at the end, and then in the middle it's just kind of these small scenes of like, yeah, you need to do this.
Brilliance.
Yeah, like you just need to do this and things like that. But they make the plan to, get the dad. He keeps introducing the dad, and he's like, here, this is my friend. And he introduces them, and she's just not interested in the dad because she's interested in him. And then every time something kind of happens that the dad should be stepping in to protect her, he's doing it.
He's trying his hardest, and he keeps just messing it up.
Yeah, like Biff comes in and he's making a scene, and Marty goes over and stands up to him, and that just makes her like Marty even more. And he's like, oh, why did my dad just do that? But we know his dad. His dad would never stand up to anyone.
And he's a writer. He's trying to write things. And...
Well, see, this is what I like, that the dad's a writer, and he's like, I didn't know you wrote stories. And it's like, yeah, I write stories about like like sci-fi and stuff like that. And he's like, you should send this to a publisher. And the dad's like, no, I'd never send it to anyone, because what if they didn't like it? What happened if I'd fail?
This is the fear of rejection.
Yeah, it's the exact same fear that he has.
Yeah.
In 1985 about his music.
It's nearly the same thing he says as well. He says, I don't think I could take the rejection. Yeah,
exactly. And it kind of shows that, like, even though he thinks his dad's a like in 1985, he kind of thinks of his dad as, like a loser because he gets pushed around by Biff and stuff like that. He is very similar, even though he doesn't notice it himself. He's very similar in that he won't take that risk.
Yeah, it's near enough the same character, just a bit more forward.
Yeah, he's less, cowardly and less timid than his dad, but
it's the same.
He has the same fear of like taking that risk of like making the big step that would make him a success, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But they keep trying to work out ways, and he's like, you need to ask her to this dance, because he knows, his mom's told him when she kisses him at the dance, that's when she falls in love with him. Yeah, but so he tries to get his dad to ask her. The dad doesn't ask her, and then she asks Marty to ask her. So Marty comes up with a plan. He's like, I'll ask her, and then
I'll get handsy.
I'll get a bit handsy, and then you'll come over and save her, because she kind of says that the only reason she doesn't like him is that he doesn't stand up for his. He's kind
of cute.
Yeah, she's like, I don't like him because he doesn't stand up for himself, and he needs to be able to stand up for himself if he's going to stand up for me. So Marty devises this plan. You'll come over, you'll hit me, I'll go down, and everyone will be safe.
Yeah. Be there at exactly 8:55.
Yeah.
And then do it at 9.
So he pulls in with with her, and she takes out a drink.
Yeah, she takes out a bottle of something,
Yeah.
swiped it from the cabinet.
Yeah, she's
Ah,
like, swipe this
shit.
from the old one. And then he's like, you drink? And she's like, anybody drinks. Well, I don't know if you knew this, but there's when they were filming this scene, the other bit where he takes a swig of it.
Yeah.
When they first filmed this scene, it's obviously just meant to be water or whatever, just to make, just because you
They
have to shoot
left
this
the
in.
actual stuff in it.
Purposely, they left it all in. Everyone else knew except Michael J. Fox. So he takes like a massive swig of it, and then like spits it out.
So that's the scene you see then.
No, because in the scene that we actually see, he takes a significantly shorter sip.
Yeah, but then he spits it all out when she lights up the smoke.
Yeah, but in the scene where they have when they have him with the actual alcohol, they've obviously told him to do it like a really long drink. Because if it had just been a short one, because he obviously drank at the time, so if it had just been a short one, it would have just been like a shot. But they basically had him drink like
a mouthful,
like a proper 2 or 3 shots worth at once, and he he wasn't expecting it to be alcohol. Spits it all out. But yeah, she lights up a smoke, and he's like, "You smoke too." And again, we just see that this is not the image that she's portrayed to him.
Yeah.
As his mum. She's like, as his mum, she's like, I was a real goody two shoes. I never did anything that I shouldn't do and stuff. And he's bought into that, believed her.
Well, you've no other thing, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but he's learned very quickly that is not the case, and it kind of puts a bit of a dent in his plan of because his plan was like, she's she will not be up for anyone getting a little bit handsy, but then he learns very quickly that she is up for that.
Oh yeah, she's up for everything.
Yeah. So she leans in and kisses him, and she's like, "Oh, it's real weird. It's like kissing my brother or something."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, I know what you mean." And just after that happens, Biff shows up with the boys.
Wow, as he does, like.
Yeah. And Biff drags him out of the car, and the boys bring him off to the boot of some other car.
I love this. That they pick him up, or they hit him a smack in the stomach, and then pick him up and just carry him. And nobody sees this.
Yeah, and then they fire him into the boot of this car, and they close it, and the band gets out, and they're all smoking.
Smoking doobie.
You don't see anything that it is, but the lads, the bullies kind of refer like, "Oh, we don't want any problem with any reefer smokers."
No, he calls them a spook first.
Yeah, spook, and then calls them like
reefer addicts. 4 other lads get out of the car, and they're like, "Uh-oh."
So the 3 boys run off, and then we hear banging from the boot, and he's like, "Hey, let me out!" And they're like, "Where's the keys?" He's like, "They're in here." Why the keys are in there is...
Now, that makes a very big point here when you see him trying to jam it open with the screwdriver, and he cuts his hand with it, and he's like, "Oh, my hand," and it's all thing because he's the guitar player.
But while all this is happening, Biff has gotten into the car that Marty drove.
Yeah.
And the dad is, still thinking, still got this plan. It's time for me to head out. So he heads out, and
he realizes he's late.
Yeah, Biff is
raping.
Biff is a very rapey boy.
Now this was full on ending in rape.
Yeah, like this is what I would have been more concerned. Like Disney should be more likely to have said no to.
Yeah, like just close the door and leave us alone. Even though she's asking for help.
Yeah, and prior to that, he's like, even when they're in the cafe. Yeah, and he's like, "I know you want it." It's just like, it's very, very rapey.
Yeah. It's a dodgy one, isn't it?
Yeah. But the dad opens the door and he's ready to, "Hey, you get your hands off her." And Biff is like, "Here, fuck off!" Like, and she's asking for help, and the dad is kind of like doesn't want to stand up to Biff because it's something he's never done.
Because Biff will probably kill him.
Yeah, probably. But he finally grows the stones to do it, and Marty's running back, and just before Marty gets there, we see the dad absolutely cold clock Biff.
I love it because he grabs him, but he throws one and he gets caught with it, and he puts him into like the stomach. Yeah.
But then the next one, that's a good connection there because he puts him out
flat out.
Yeah. So he goes into the dance with the mum, and the band are like, we can't play, we've no guitar, unless you know someone who can play guitar. And Marty's like, I do, yeah, I'll play. So they're like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So they head back in, and Marty's playing away, but then he starts faltering and missing the notes and stuff. And he looks at the picture, and he's starting to fade.
Yeah, he needs to kick up the gears now.
Yeah, and he's like, I really need those two to kiss, like, because that's the moment that, you know, it'll set everything back on track. You know, I'll be born, and that'll be the end of it.
No, we missed a piece here where they've made the plan as to they know how they're going to get him back, because the only thing other than plutonium that can hit the 121 is a bolt of lightning.
A bolt of lightning, which
strikes the clock tower.
And he has the little leaflet that he had in his pocket that says that what time it strikes at. So
happens to be the same day as the school.
Yes, it seems to be everything seems to have been this day. The day that he comes up with the flux capacitor, the day that the lightning bolt hits, the school dance that, you know, makes
everything falls.
Yeah, perfect. Now the day he went back is a week prior.
Yeah.
So now like, there has been a week since he's got back to when this happens. So not everything happens on the same day, I suppose. The day the flux capacitor he comes up with that idea is a week prior to the lightning bolt.
Yeah, no, but like the dance, the lightning bolt.
Yeah, but we see that Doc has, you know, set up the lightning bolt and stuff. And while all this is happening, Marty's playing away.
I love how before that though you see the cop coming to him. How you doing? Setting up a weather experiment. Do you have a permit?
Yeah, and he's just like, yeah, I do. Yeah, what permit are you gonna have? Nothing. But while he's playing the guitar, the parents do kiss, and you know he becomes whole again, and he's able to play the guitar.
I love that though. The same where he plays the guitar, he goes around and tells the lads what to do. He's like, just follow me, watch me for the changes now. And he plays Johnny Be Good.
What I like is that he's about to leave, and they're like, no, do one more, and he's like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll do one more, because you know it's something he's always wanted. And he's like, use just follow my lead, change when I change, and play in this chord. And the singer gets off the stage.
I love this. He just legs it and he's like, you see him ringing on the phone. Marvin, it's your cousin Chuck. It's your cousin Marvin. Marvin Berry. Remember that sound you're looking for?
I think I found it.
He just holds the phone up and he's playing Johnny Be Good.
He's playing Johnny Be Good, and then he starts doing, you know, all the stuff, like it gets heavier and heavier, and everyone's just looking at him, and he's like, I suppose it's a little a little much for you guys, but your kids are gonna love it.
Yeah.
And what I like is as he's leaving, his mum is just like, he's gonna take me home. Are you okay? And he's like, yeah, I had a feeling about you too. And he's like, oh, by the way, when you are like, if you ever get married, like, and you have kids,
if one of them sets the rug on fire,
if one of them ever sets the rug on fire by accident when they're 8 years old, you know, just go easy on them.
I love her reaction there. She goes out, she blushes and everything. It's not just
hey. And what I like is that when he, like, as he's gone, she goes, Marty's a nice name.
Yeah. So it's obviously set up in terms of that. Like,
we see that's the thing. Like, he always went back, which is the thing that time travel always needs. That you always need to have gone back.
Yeah, it has to follow the story. Like,
yeah, it always needs to have gone that way. But then it also isn't, because the story isn't exactly the same, because she obviously came up with the name Marty from somewhere when this didn't happen, because the story that she originally had was that the dad had been hit by the car, which...
Yeah, so things have slightly changed. Or has she just forgotten because she's drinking all the time?
No, I don't think so. I think it is that he has gone and changed it, because we see later how much his family life does change. But he's written a little note to Doc to explain to Doc what's
Doc did not want that.
And the Doc finds it and he's like, no, you can't tell me, and rips it up. And he's like, no, it's really important. He's like, no, I don't want to hear it. And he's like, now you just take that car and you drive up there, and at that white line, when
he's mapped everything out. He's like, I've mapped out the drag, the wind speed.
And he's like, we have 7 minutes. You're gonna go up there, and when that alarm clock goes off, you're gonna drive down this road to get to 88. Then just as you hit 88, you'll hit this wire
with that connecting hook.
With that connecting hook, and that's when the clock will be hit by the lightning bolt, and that'll send you back.
That generates the 121. Yeah.
They're all like, "Yep, perfect. That's great. Yeah, no problems." So he drives off up, and
the car dies.
Well, before he drives
Oh
off
yeah,
up, he's about to get in. The tree falls and pulls out
pulls
the
them. Do you notice
the
it's
cable.
just a plug?
Yeah, it's just a normal plug. Yeah, just
Well, just
crap.
bigger.
Yeah, and he's like, right, I'll go up and fix that. You drive off up there. So Doc is up on top of this by the clock trying to fix it. And he gets there and he's about to plug it back in. Marty is there trying to get the car to work, which has stalled out again.
Yeah, so that tells you
But
that the
he's also
battery's
changed.
fucked.
He's changed the time on it very slightly back to 10 minutes earlier than
So he's gonna
when
save the dock.
he's like, I'm going to go back and then I'll be able to save Doc. But then I'll go forward and, then there'd be two Martys there the whole time, which is one of the issues with time travel. But, you just have to overlook that a bit. But
Well,
Doc
no,
is...
as long as they don't meet, it shouldn't change that.
Yeah, but it means that then there's one DeLorean. Like at some point, there's two time traveling DeLoreans in the
Within
world.
seconds of each other, yeah.
Within 10 minutes of each other. But, whatever. Doc gets up there and he's trying to plug the two plugs back in. And he eventually gets it, but when he gets it, it unplugs at the other end.
Do you notice what you don't? It's easy to miss here. You know when he falls and he's hanging on to the clock.
Yeah, he grabs onto the hands of the clock.
He has that in his house at the start.
Yeah.
You know when it's scanning across the clock, there's a guy holding on to the 10 o'clock thing.
Yeah, it's
very
good.
subtly done. Yeah.
There's loads of that in this. Like the whole thing is, one thing happens there, and then it links back to something that happens.
Yeah, so
later
that tells
in the film,
you,
but earlier in the story, sort of thing.
That tells you that at the start, Doc knew that he was hanging from that at one stage.
Yeah, but again, he wouldn't have been because, And what I do like is that Doc spent 30 years developing this, but only because he knew that he could. Because Marty has told him, like, you've done it in the future. I've come back and I'm telling you you've done it. So of course you're going to invest your entire family fortune because you succeed.
Yeah.
So
it has changed.
There is a lot of like stuff that works and like links back one way to the other. But he gets the one plug back in, the one up at the top of the tower. But in doing so, unplugs it at the bottom end. Yeah. So he zip wires down as Marty's shooting down the road and eventually just gets them.
What I don't get here is he has like a metal cable that he hooks to the
just carries it around. Just carries it around.
To the clock, but it's not attached to anything else from the zip line down.
No, just carries it around, Greg. No bother.
Yeah.
He wraps it around the clock, the actual hands of the clock. So
yeah, but that doesn't. It has to be attached somewhere else.
I know. Yeah. Well, it's stuck to the tree branch down below.
Yeah, I don't know if it's strong enough.
Neither do I, but that's the theory anyway. So he zip lines down, and just as Marty gets there to hit the wire, he just gets them plugged back in together.
Gets shocked himself as well.
Yeah, but that brings Marty back into Back to the Future, as the film's called.
Yeah.
And he's 10 minutes earlier, but the car breaks down again.
Oh.
His car is a disaster. It's again covered in ice and stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's returned.
I love the homeless guy that's asleep on the bench, gets woken up and
fucking drunk drivers.
Said with a bottle of scotch in his chest.
What I like then is that we see the Scooby-Doo van drive by with the Libyans, and he's like, oh no, the Libyans.
He's trying to chase them on foot.
Yeah, so he chases them, and he gets there and he sees Doc getting shot. Yeah. And then he goes back in time.
Do you notice where he goes down, trying to go down the hill? He doesn't try and run, he just face plants himself down the hill.
Yeah. But he goes back. We see him go back in time. We see the Libyans crash into this like newsstand sort of thing that's just there with the rocket launcher. And then he runs up to check on Doc, and he's like, "Oh, he's dead. He didn't read the note." And then we see Doc kind of sit up.
He has the bulletproof vest on.
He has the bulletproof vest on, and he's like, "Wait, how did you know?" And he takes out the note that Marty had written him, and he self-tapes it all back together. And he's like, "Thought you said you couldn't read that." And he was like, I shouldn't have, but then I was thinking,
couldn't take a chance.
Sure, why not? why wouldn't I read it?
But theoretically, then, would it have changed that much if he actually opened it on the day of 1985?
In theory, the only thing that it would change is that he would
survive.
Yeah, that's in theory, just because all you have to say in it is on this date in 1985. wear a bulletproof vest. That's all you have to say, you know, and you're not going to change too much. But it looks like everything's worked out all right. So Marty decides I'll head home. So he heads home and goes to bed.
Wakes up in his shirt.
Wakes up in his shirt, which is, you know, relatively normal for him. And he walks down the stairs, and it's a very, very different house.
He's wearing a suit.
His brother, who looked to work in kind of like a supermarket or something beforehand, is now wearing a suit. And he's like, I always wear a suit to the office. The house is much bigger. And then his dad,
interior,
the dad and the mum come in from the back, and they've been playing tennis and stuff.
They look like they're happy as Larry now again.
Yeah, and previously they'd kind of been the dad kind of ignored the mum a lot.
Distant, yeah.
Yeah.
She was drinking as well.
She was always drinking, and the dad was just watching telly. Like, they weren't a great family. But now they seem quite happy and stuff.
And you notice even the sister has boyfriends and all now. She's not afraid to. She's like her dad.
Yeah.
I like that little touch that they have her going out, and she's like, "Oh, is it this boy? I can't keep up with all your boyfriends."
Yeah, but what I like then is that we learn that the mum does know about the fact that he's planning to go up to the lake with Jennifer.
Yeah, and she likes her.
Yeah, but he doesn't know why any of this is, because he's just got back.
Yeah.
So he's just kind of adjusting, and he's just like, yeah, okay. So he looks in, then he looks out the front, and Biff is there shining up the car. And he's like, now, Biff, I want 2 coats of polish. And he's like, I'm just done with the second one. He's like, now, Biff.
Well, I'm just starting the second one.
Let's not have any of your mess. And he's like, oh, I meant I was just starting the second one.
I love how he's a real nerd, big nerd now, though. He's like, oh.
Yeah, you know, like, yeah, he lost his popularity, and now he's a nobody, essentially, you know?
Just a big guy.
Yeah, so then he brings in a box, and he's like, oh, it's your latest book. And we see that his dad has written a book about time travel.
We forgot the part when he comes in to convince his dad to ask her. He comes in dressed as the spaceman.
He does, yeah. He comes in.
He's like, what's your name? He's like, I'm Darth Vader from the planet Vulcan.
You know, just stuff that he knows, and he knows his dad won't know yet.
Yeah.
So we see that the book is, you know, a boy and a girl in kind of like a love story, and there's a guy in like a spacesuit standing between them, and the story is obviously just his life story, but he's turned it into a sci-fi fantasy, like.
Yeah, because he met Darth Vader from the planet Vulcan.
Yeah, and then he meets, you know, Jennifer.
He's like, when he goes out and he's like, oh, your truck is polished up.
Yeah, and it's the truck that he'd said he wanted to buy.
What a truck as well. What a machine.
He's about to go out for a quick spin with Jennifer, and Doc shows back up.
Flowing into the bin.
After having gone forward 30 years. And he goes into the bin and he's taking stuff out of it. And he's like, Doc, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm fueling up the car. No longer needs petroleum.
Because petroleum's hard to come by.
Sorry, not petroleum.
Plutonium.
Plutonium. He's like, just get this. He just fires it all in. And he's like, we don't have enough road to get to 88. And he's like, oh, we don't need roads.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
The car now flies, and we learn that where they're going is into the future because
there's something wrong with his kid.
Something wrong with Marty and Jennifer's kids. So we learn that, you know, Marty and Jennifer are going to have kids.
I like that though. It was like, he's like, it's not to do with you. And he's like, well, what about Jennifer? And she's like, you shouldn't come too. It's to do with your kids, Marty.
Yeah. And I like that because it's kind of similar to, you know, the way Marty kind of had to tell his parents, you know, don't go hard on your kids. And now it's like, oh yeah, you used to get married as well. And it's just like, oh, well, I suppose I should just accept that because he said it. And we know that when Doc goes forward in time, the 30 years, that the same thing was said to him. When you get there, look me up. Yeah.
Now, to me, that car, the fact that the car's flying was probably the stupidest scene in this. I know it was used. Like I think it's like from looking online and reading a couple of things, that's the part that really annoys people about this movie.
I suppose but like I suppose in the 80s, people thought in 30 years that they were going to have cars that could fly.
No, yeah, well, like to me, like it sets up the fact that the hoverboards and all.
Yeah.
For the second one. Spoiler, if you haven't seen the second one, they do have hoverboards.
Yeah. But that's kind of the point. Like, I think that, again, even in this film, they set themselves up for what they can do in the second one. And again, it's as I said with a lot of these 80 films, they tie the story off, so the story is finished, but they
Yeah.
also leave enough there that if this does well,
Oh, there
we
was a
can go
loop.
and
There
make.
was a loop in the knot. All right.
Yeah, it's always like we can go and make something else. Like they finished this story. This story's over, and then he travels forward in time. And if this film hadn't done well,
It was.
there was never going to be a second one. That was just going to be the end of it. Oh, they traveled forward in time, and that's the end of it. But it did do well, so they were able to make a second one. I like that skateboard. Like one of the things that we just we didn't mention is that obviously he's a skateboarder in 1985,
Yeah.
and then he goes back.
He does it in 55.
But he takes the thing that the kid has on top of the board.
It's like a little soapbox car thing.
Yeah, like it's a little soapbox car, and then he lifts that off. He's like, "Hey, you broke it," and he's like, "Yeah, whatever." And this is when Biff is chasing him around in the car.
Yeah, he crashes into the. I love what they do here with the manure though, where Biff crashes into the manure truck, and the manure goes all over him, and he's like, "You caused $300 worth of damage to my car."
Yeah, there's also another bit in this that again ties. So do you know the way when he meets when he goes back in time and he meets the guy who works in the cafe? He's like, he's going to be mayor in 30 years.
Yeah,
and your man's like, yeah, mayor. At the start of this film, we see that the mayor's thing is vote for mayor, vote for this mayor. Progressive change and all this. And then when he goes back in time, it's the exact same thing, but with a different mayor with the exact same slogans. Yeah, everything just repeats itself. I really like that in this.
Well, 1985, right? So you're saying racism and all is still really big in America, and for them to come around and say, "Yeah, we're going to have a black mayor."
Well, they do make reference to that back in 1955. He's like,
no, but when the movie was made in 85.
I know, yeah. But they even make reference to that when he goes back to 1955 when he's like,
a black mayor, not gonna happen.
A black mayor, that'll be the day, yeah. There's a lot of stuff that they, they're quite forward thinking in it,
Yeah, they were very ahead of it. Like the script writers, obviously Robert Zemeckis and Steven Spielberg obviously had a part, but I don't think he was a screenwriter on it. There's a couple others whose name I can't remember. They done really well with so they set the aim out and had a lot of things that they used in it, like the likes of the black mayor and things. They knew, they're obviously forward thinking that this will change in time, so we need to have this movie in a point where it's going to adapt.
Yeah, and obviously it's another couple of years on since then as well, so there's kind of certain things like that scene with Biff is very questionable, but I suppose you kind of Biff is meant to be the bad guy and he is meant to be all this,
Yeah, I'm surprised now that you still see this on the telly at Christmas time because of that scene.
Yeah, well, see, this is what that's where I know this film. I used to watch it in and around Christmas. It's not a Christmas film by any means, but it used to be on at Christmas all the time. I used to watch this and then the second one and then the third one.
Was it used to be on sort of between, it was Boxing Day usually I used to see it.
Stevens
I don't think it was ever, or Stevens' Day, yeah. Boxing Day in terms of football.
Stevens' Day in terms of football as well. But yeah, it was on in and around that sort of Christmas period. I would always consider it one of my Christmas films, but it's not a Christmas film in that sense either.
Oh, no, none of the three of them are.
No. But I would always consider them that way because that's when I would have watched them, sort of thing.
Yeah. There's one other really good thing they do in this. So when they go off, it's at the start, it's called Twin Pines Mall.
Yeah.
And because they hit one of the trees, it's now called Lone Pines Mall.
Yeah, it is. It's those very small things. They do think ahead of everything that they've done.
Yeah, everything's done with an intent in this movie. Some movies just have it, they hit that and they wouldn't have thought anything else of it.
Yeah.
But this was designed because something happened, it changed.
Yeah. See, and this is what I like is that they did have things change, and there's still certain issues with time travel, but I don't think there's ever going to unless time travel actually became a thing and we could understand exactly what would happen with it. There's no way you'll know what would and wouldn't happen,
I'm trying to think.
There's always going to be issues when you put time travel into film. Even the most recent Marvel films, there's still questions about the time travel there. Everything that you use time travel in, there's going to be questions.
I did say at the start of this, is probably the best time travel movie, but I actually probably thought it one better. Terminator's probably the best of them. Terminator 1, Terminator 2. It's,
See, they're better, but because we never see the future.
You kind of do. Where they go forward in Terminator 1, they go forward and you see the war with Kyle and John.
Yeah, but like you don't start there, you know.
Yeah.
And we don't see what it changes to either.
We have no comparison to it.
Like we know that like presumably the Terminator didn't come back originally in Terminator 1. Right?
No, well, I'd say he does because he's coming back to stop John being born because they can't kill him
But the only reason that John is born is because he goes back to stop John being born. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, also true, yeah, because like, you nearly forget that Kyle's his dad.
Exactly, yes. Spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen Terminator. Sorry.
If you haven't seen something that came out in 1984 or whatever it did, it's your own fault.
But like, do you see what I mean? Like, we don't really see the future in Terminator.
Yeah, this one starts in the future.
It
starts in the present.
Well, yeah, it starts in the present, then it goes back, and then it comes back to the present. Do you know? But whereas Terminator, we see a very short thing of them being in the future.
Yeah.
Where they're in like this ruined society, and then the rest of the film is all set in the past. So we never get to see what effects the time travel has on the future, sort of thing. You know.
You can also check out the two Terminators in an earlier episode.
Yeah, you can check out the Terminators that we did earlier this month, but it's one of those things that like it's better because it doesn't have to deal with the issues of time travel in that sense. Like there is time travel in it, but they don't need to deal with those issues, sort of thing. Whereas this has to deal with the issues of going back and coming back to where you were, sort of thing.
Arguably, then you'd say these are probably the two best time travel movies. Then.
Yeah, but I think the Bill and Ted is up there for me, because they kind of just ignore the fact that it would have changed time.
Yeah, that's I haven't watched. I only watched the new one there a while ago.
Yeah, that's why I rewatched the first and second one because of that new one.
But, is it Excellent Adventures first and then Bogus Journey's the second one, isn't it?
Yeah, Excellent Adventures. They just they have to do the history report and they just pick up all these people.
That's right. Yeah, they come back with everyone. Yeah,
but it has no effect on the rest. It has no effect on what would have happened back then. Like for that film, they just went, yeah, they're going to travel back in time. They're going to take people out of time, but it will have zero effect on time.
Yeah, which is kind of strange.
Yeah, but they just that was just the rules they set. Like you have to set your own rules for time travel, and that's the rules they set. That like, listen, that's not going to affect it. Just forget about it. You know?
Yeah, like in this one, Doc sets it straight up.
Yeah, like if you do something, it will change the future. Effect. Whereas in Bill and Ted, they're just like, no, that doesn't happen.
It's not real.
Okay. And then Terminator obviously comes from the point of,
they're coming back to stop.
They're coming back, but having come back, it means that they've already come back, because the only way for that to have happened is for the other thing to have happened. So it's all just one cyclical thing. Like it always happened in Terminator,
Yeah, I suppose.
Is sort of the way it goes. It's one of those things that like you have to set your own rules in time travel, and there's always going to be flaws no matter what you do. So like I don't mind that there's issues, Yeah. Some people are like, oh, I don't like that this happened and that happened, but this film made its rules and then it stuck to them very well, as you say, with like Twin Pine Malls becoming Lone Pine Malls. Obviously he goes back and his dad becomes like a writer, which makes their family rich, and Biff having
it changes their fortune a little bit.
Yeah, and then Biff having been like knocked out and humiliated as the school bully, loses his confidence, and then he becomes kind of like a degenerate loser sort of thing. It's just all that sort of stuff,
Yeah.
They set their rules, and the things did change, but they also had the point that like because he'd changed things, it nearly meant he wasn't born.
Yeah, they started to knock it down, and we're like, no, well, now you've got another problem. Now you've got to fix that as well.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't know. Like this is definitely, as you say, it's one of the better ones, and I really enjoyed rewatching this now.
Yeah, no, I did.
Even if it isn't Christmas time.
Yeah, well, I'll have to watch it again at Christmas time. It's
Well,
6 months away.
I always do as well, but it's still,
Yeah, like I'll watch the three of them now. Like this one obviously is the best of the three, but I think three is probably better than 2.
Yeah, I don't really know. I enjoy 2 as well.
Oh, I do. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy all 3. Like I'd sit and watch all 3 one after another.
Yeah, I would definitely say this is the best one, but I think that's because you don't have the expectations going into this to live up to that you would when you're making the second one. You need to live up to the expectations of that what you set in number 1.
Do you think in 1985 when this came out they actually envisioned it being as good as it was?
I don't think they expected it to be as big a blockbuster because a lot of other films came out in and around that sort of time. Like the second Rambo would have come out around that summer.
Jeez, the second Rambo was oh no, that's the third one in Azerbaijan. And I was like, geez, that was awful.
Yeah, but like Rambo had been a huge success in itself, and then the second one came out. Like I don't think they could have suspected this being such a massive hit, but I'm glad it was because it meant we did get 2 more. And I think.
Oh yeah, and I'm kind of glad they left it there.
Well, see, that's what I was going to say, that they didn't try and keep going. They made 3 and just went, we're happy with what we've made and we'll leave it with that.
Oh, Jesus. Do you want to know some of the movies that came around this time?
Yeah, go ahead.
Commando.
Yeah.
The Goonies. The Breakfast Club.
Exactly.
Legend.
You look at that list, like...
Oh, look, there's another Michael J. Fox one. Teen Wolf.
Was that that summer?
Yeah, 1985, yeah.
Oh, Jesus. He was really on the go.
Rocky 4.
Yeah, I mean...
Rambo 2. Fright Night. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Jesus, it was a big all year for movies.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, and it still did extraordinarily well. And, unlike a lot of them, like Rocky already had its name. Rambo obviously already had its name.
Has Nightmare on Elm Street 2, which was the worst of them.
Yeah, but it already had a name as well behind it.
Friday the 13th, 6 or 7. Yeah. There's loads of good movies. Young Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, but like some of those already have a franchise behind them, or at least one film in like that they had a success with. Whereas this was coming in cold, like, and they did a really good job with it.
Once Spielberg put his name to it as well, though, would have helped.
It would have helped, but like it's still 388.
Oh yeah, name can't do everything. Well, unless you're Dwayne The Rock Johnson now, but
it's a little bit different now though because people have that bit more income to like kind of spend on cinemas and stuff. But
so like once Spielberg puts his name to something, though, it's gonna make at least 100 million, whether it's shite or not.
Yeah. But that's it for this episode. We'll definitely have to revisit 2 and 3 at some point as well.
Whenever Sci-Fi, whatever comes along.
Whenever the next Sci-Fi comes along. But that's it for this episode. So good luck.